Welcome to Alma Tales Lab, where lying wives and sneaky girlfriends finally get exposed. From girls' trips that never happened to coworkers who were a little too friendly, we break down every red flag, messy receipt, and suspicious text with humor, shock, and just a little bit of petty. Expect wild stories, dramatic reactions, and satisfying karma as the truth comes crashing through the door. If you love relationship tea, plot twists, and seeing players get played, this channel is your new home. Every single chaotic, jaw-dropping, binge-worthy episode. Hit subscribe and never miss a fresh dose of exposed cheating. Don't forget to check our previous stories. Let's get into it. The cruel thing my wife did was to invite the man she was cheating with to our carefully planned vacation, then stand in a hotel lobby and introduce him like I was just another piece of luggage, smiling while she watched my face fall. She did not apologize. She did not even lower her voice. She simply decided I would endure it because she believed I would rather be humiliated than be alone. Here's how it happened. I'm Marcellus Hargrove, born and raised in Tacoma, Washington, the kind of man who plans ahead because life gets expensive when you do not. I work logistics for a medical supplier outside Seattle. My wife, Yasmin Calder, sells luxury apartments for a living. Polished voice, careful smile, always talking about the experience. For years, I thought her confidence was a gift. I learned too late that it could also be a weapon. Last spring, Yasmin pitched the vacation like it was a rescue mission for our marriage. "We need romance," she said, sliding her phone toward me with photos of Cartagena, Colombia, bright colonial streets, ocean views, rooftop dinners. A Spanish-speaking country in South America, warm and alive. Exactly the kind of place she said would reset us. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to feel chosen again. So I used my bonus, cashed in points, and built the trip like a promise. Flights, hotel, excursions, all mapped out. For a month, the house looked blissful. Yasmin would come up behind me while I cooked and wrap her arms around my waist like we were still new. She kissed my shoulder and asked if I remembered how I proposed at Point Defiance, how she cried into my jacket because she was so happy. At night, she curled close and talked about the future, maybe a bigger place, maybe kids when things settle. I held on to those words like rope, even when her phone never stopped lighting up. The Spanish practice started as a joke between us. I printed flashcards and stuck them on the fridge. Buenos dias, donde está el baño? Mucho gusto. Yasmin laughed at my handwriting and said my accent made me sound too serious, like I was reading instructions for a vacuum cleaner. She practiced too, dramatic and playful, rolling her R's until she made herself cough. We laughed so hard one night we almost woke the neighbors. For a while, it felt like we were okay. Then the small humiliation started, quiet ones, the kind you second guess. Yasmin would correct me in front of people. She called me sensitive if I asked why she was smiling at her phone at midnight. She stopped wearing her ring sometimes and said it was because of lotion. When I asked who she was texting, she looked at me like I was an inconvenience and said, "You are exhausting, Marcellus." Like my need for respect was a burden she resented carrying. 2 weeks before the trip, I caught the first solid lie by accident. Yasmin left her tablet open on the kitchen counter while she showered. A message popped up from a name I did not recognize, Tristan Lockwood. The text was casual and cruelly familiar. "Can't wait to see you in Cartagena. You sure he won't suspect?" My stomach dropped so fast I had to sit down. I took a photo with my phone, then another, hands shaking. When Yasmin came out, I acted normal and asked if she wanted tea. That night, I did not confront her. I did not rage. I did not beg. I went into the bathroom, locked the door, and stared at myself in the mirror until my breathing slowed. I realized something simple and ugly. She was not afraid of losing me. She was only afraid of being inconvenienced. And if she was willing to bring another man into our vacation, she had already decided my dignity was negotiable. I stopped trying to argue with a person who did not care. I called an attorney in Seattle the next morning and asked what preparation looked like when your spouse is cheating and you share assets. The lawyer spoke calmly, like this was the weather. She told me what mattered: documentation, separate accounts, secured valuables, clear boundaries, and timing. She asked if we had a post-nup. We did. Yasmin insisted on it after she started earning more commissions, saying it would protect us from money fights. There was an infidelity clause, and she had signed it confidently. Over the next 10 days, I moved like a ghost in my own life. I opened a new account in my name, rerouted my paycheck, and saved every message I could find without tipping Yasmin off. I changed passwords. I photographed the post-nup and our property documents. I packed a folder that looked boring from the outside, but could change my future. Yasmin floated through the house in perfume and playlists, talking about beaches and rooftops, never noticing I had stopped asking questions. When we landed in Cartagena, the heat hit us like a hand on the chest. Thick air, salt, and exhaust, the sound of Spanish everywhere like music. Yasmin smiled wide at the airport, and for a moment my heart tried to pretend again. We got into a taxi, and I used my practice line with the driver. Hola, senor. Puedo llevarnos al hotel? He nodded, amused. Yasmin clapped like I had won an award. Look at you, she said and kissed my cheek. It almost hurt. The first day truly looked blissful. We walked the walled city under bright sun, pastel buildings leaning toward each other like they were gossiping. We bought fruit from a cart, and I tried to say I wanted mango. Instead, I confidently said, Quiero mango, and the vendor laughed until his shoulders shook. Yasmin laughed too, holding her stomach, and for a few seconds it felt like we were a normal couple sharing a private joke with the world. That night, we did a rooftop dinner overlooking the city lights. A live band played, and Yasmin pulled me up to dance even though I'm not graceful. I stepped on her foot twice. She winced, then smiled for the waiter, like pain was only allowed when it benefited her. I apologized, and she said, "It's fine," in a tone that said it was not. Still, she leaned her head on my shoulder when the music slowed. I let myself hold that softness, knowing it was temporary. The funny Spanish moments kept coming. At a small cafe, I tried to order 2 coffees and told the barista, "Dos caballos, por favor." 2 horses. The barista blinked, then laughed so hard he had to lean on the counter. Yasmin laughed too, filming me while I turned red. "My husband is trying," she announced to nobody in particular, like I was a child learning to tie my shoes. I smiled for the camera because that is what I had trained myself to do. On day 2, Yasmin insisted we take a salsa lesson. The instructor was patient, clapping rhythms, calling out Spanish counts. I could not keep my feet straight, and I kept whispering, lo siento, every time I bumped someone. Yasmin looked radiant, spinning like she was born for attention. When I finally got one turn right, she said, "Okay, babe," like she was humoring me. The instructor said, "Muy bien," and I held on to that tiny kindness longer than I should have. The humiliation began quietly that evening. Yasmin spent an hour doing her hair and makeup, then told me she wanted to meet friends at the hotel bar. I asked what friends. She stared at me, slow, like I was embarrassing her just by existing. "Do not start," she said. "We are on vacation." Then she walked ahead of me through the lobby, hips swaying, not once checking if I was beside her. I followed anyway, because that is what betrayed people do at first. They chase the version of love they miss. At the bar, she ordered drinks in Spanish with perfect confidence, words she had never practiced with me. She laughed at the bartender's jokes like she understood every line. I sat there feeling dumb, like a guest in my own marriage. Then she lifted her phone and texted rapidly, eyes shining. When I asked who she was talking to, she said, "Relax," and sipped her drink. The way she said it was not soothing. It was dismissive, like a door closing. The next morning, she acted sweet again. She brought me a pastry and called me handsome in that voice that used to melt me. She took selfies with me on the balcony, ocean behind us, our smiles staged. "This trip is already healing us," she said, posting them immediately. I watched her screen out of the corner of my eye and noticed what she cropped. She kept my face, but she cut off our hands, like the ring did not exist. I felt a cold calm settle in. On day 3, she told me to meet her in the lobby at 2 p.m. for a boat tour. I arrived early, wearing the shirt she once said brought out my eyes. I stood near the front desk, watching couples come and go, listening to Spanish swirl around me. I practiced in my head, "Estoy listo." I'm ready. When Yasmin finally walked in, she was not alone. She entered like a queen returning to her court, arm linked with a tall man in linen, smiling like he belonged. Marcellus, she said, bright and careless. This is Tristan. Tristan Lockwood was black, maybe mid-30s, shaped like he spent time in mirrors. He looked me up and down with a smirk that did not bother to hide. Yasmin continued, like she was introducing co-workers. Tristan's joining us for part of the trip. He needed a break. My mouth went dry. My heart tried to sprint, but my body stayed still. I heard myself say, calmly, "Nice to meet you," as if my pain was polite. Yasmin leaned in close, her smile sharp. "Do not make a scene," she whispered, eyes flat. Then louder for Tristan. "My husband is so laid back. He is not jealous." Tristan chuckled like I was a joke. He bumped Yasmin's hip with his and said, "Told you he'd be cool." My hands trembled at my sides, but I kept my face neutral. Deep inside, something cracked, not loudly, not dramatically, just a final break of hope. The boat tour became a slow torture. Yasmin sat beside Tristan, not me. She fed him fruit, laughing when juice dripped down his wrist. She took photos of him against the water like he was the point of the trip. When I tried to join the conversation, she ignored me or corrected my Spanish in front of him, making me feel small. At one point I said, "La vista es hermosa," and Yasmin laughed and said, "He means the view is pretty," like I had spoken gibberish. Back at the hotel, she made the cruelty practical. "Tristan will take the bed," she said, like assigning seats on a bus. "You can sleep on the couch. You do not mind, right?" Tristan did not protest. He dropped his bag by the bed and turned on the TV. Yasmin watched my reaction with a lazy confidence, like she wanted to see if I would finally break. When I stayed quiet, she rolled her eyes. "See," she told Tristan, "he's fine." That night, I lay on the couch staring at the ceiling, listening to muffled laughter behind the bedroom door. I did not cry loudly. I did not throw anything. I simply stared and felt my chest ache in waves like grief had its own tide. I thought about the flashcards on our fridge back home. I thought about how I had tried to build romance out of effort, and how she had turned effort into a weakness to exploit. I whispered to myself in Spanish, barely audible, "Basta! Enough!" In the morning, Yasmin walked out wearing Tristan's shirt, not even attempting shame. "We're going to get breakfast," she said. "Do not follow." Then she paused and added coldly, "And do not touch my things." My things, not ours, not even the pretense. She left without a glance back. Tristan grinned at me as he passed, like he had won something. I sat at the small desk, opened my folder, and finally let myself do what I came prepared to do. I called the attorney from my room using Wi-Fi and told her quietly, "It happened. I have witnesses." She did not gasp. She did not dramatize. She told me exactly what to do next. Then I made 2 more calls, one to my bank to confirm the changes had gone through, and one to the hotel front desk. I kept my tone calm and professional. I asked about guest policies, extra charges, and registered occupants. The clerk explained the rules clearly, and I realized Yasmin had been reckless. Yasmin had not added Tristan to the reservation properly. He was effectively an unauthorized guest, and the hotel took that seriously, especially when the primary reservation holder was me. I asked for a meeting with the manager, presented my passport, and confirmed my identity. I did not accuse anyone of cheating. I simply stated I did not consent to an unregistered guest staying in my room, and I needed the reservation separated immediately. The manager nodded, sympathetic but firm. Policies were policies. When Yasmin returned that afternoon, she came in laughing, expecting the same power. The manager was waiting with a staff member. Yasmin's smile slipped when she saw them. "Is there a problem?" she asked, already irritated. The manager spoke politely in English, explaining that Tristan could not remain in the room without being registered, and the reservation holder had requested change. Yasmin snapped, "This is ridiculous," and looked at me like I was dirt. Tristan smirked, until the manager asked for his ID and a deposit. That is where karma landed, sudden, realistic, and quiet. Tristan's card declined, again and again. His smile cracked in anger, then embarrassment. Yasmin tried to pay, but the card she flashed was linked to the joint account I had already secured. Declined. Her face tightened, but she did not apologize. She blamed the hotel, blamed the system, blamed me. Tristan hissed that she had set him up, and the way he said it proved he never cared about her, only convenience. Security escorted him to retrieve his things. Yasmin stood in the hallway, fury vibrating off her, and I handed her an envelope. Divorce papers prepared back in Washington, with instructions and the post-nup clause highlighted. You planned this trip to humiliate me, I said quietly. I planned it to confirm the truth. She laughed, sharp and ugly. You will regret this, she said, with no remorse at all. I checked into a different room, ate dinner alone, and spoke my best Spanish to the waiter. Estoy tranquilo. I am at peace. And for the first time in months, it was true. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.